Thank you, Megan. Each and every day, the men and women of the Toronto Police Service, sworn and civilian, dedicate themselves to ensure that they do the best they can to keep others safe in our city. When you add a pandemic to the mix, it makes things a lot more complex. But some things are not complex. When individuals decide to come downtown to the largest city in the country during rush hour and have no care in the world in killing anyone in their way is beyond comprehension. These individuals should not be on the street. The public, especially Torontonians, deserve better. I'm appealing that we as a collective group once again not let these individuals get away with what they have done or what they almost did. Right now I'd like to introduce Detective Sergeant Andy Singh, and we will both be able to answer questions.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. Today I'm here to provide information in regards to the most latest homicide, Homicide 30 of 2020, which involves the homicide of Dimarjio Jenkins. Dimarjio was 21 years old at the time of this homicide. My intentions today is to release some video footage with the hopes that people that view this will be able to provide us information on the individuals that are involved in the homicide. If I may have your attention to the screen to the right of me, I'm going to provide video footage that currently shows a street in Toronto by the name of Blue Jays Way, just south of King Street. On this screen, you will notice that there is a black mark. We have done that to protect the identity of one of the individuals who's involved in this investigation, who's 15 years old. If you could play it, please. In a moment, you're going to notice a few individuals are going to start walking northbound. And I want to draw your attention to one of the individuals who's wearing a gray sweater and black bottoms. That is Dimarjio, our homicide victim. We also allege two other individuals who are in all black that are walking with Dimarjio are his associates. As they continue to walk north, these individuals are on the east side of Blue Jays Way. On the next screen, what you're going to see is these individuals are approaching closer to King Street, and on the right of the screen here, you will notice a blue SUV, which is a Volkswagen Tiguan, marked in the red circle. This is our suspect vehicle, which we believe was lying in wait for these individuals to come north. And at the time that we see the first circle, which is our homicide victim, Mr. Dimarjio Jenkins, he's almost at the vehicle where the location of the vehicle is. The vehicle started to move. And in the company of Dimarjio, as I had mentioned earlier, was a 15-year-old male who we have blurred out, and as well two individuals that we believe are associated with Dimarjio, dressed in all black. You'll notice also on this screen a family and a vehicle with two doors open, a female and a young boy who's standing there as well. And this will become very relevant in a few moments. Dimarjio and his rest of his associates started to cross the street to go on the west side of Blue Jays Way, which is when you can see the suspect vehicle starting to turn and make a U-turn and come around. And at this point, a lone shooter emerges from the vehicle, the Volkswagen Tiguan that I mentioned earlier, blue in color, and this shooter opened gunfire on Dimarjio and his other associates that were with him. What you can see in this red circle at the right of the screen is an individual who's got his arm outstretched, his right arm, and I want you to place close attention to his arm in his hand, he's holding a handgun, but more specifically, he's holding a handgun that has a high-capacity magazine. And what we have found is it's a 30-round magazine. And as this unfolds, I want you to pay attention to the little boy that ducks into the vestibule here while these associates are returning gunfire to the shooter that came from the vehicle. And the shooter can be seen running southbound on Blue Jays Way to the waiting vehicle, and he boards it, and the vehicle leaves the area. As I had mentioned earlier, the little boy was exactly in the line of gunfire when it first started. And the family, which can be clearly seen in the background, were in the receiving end of the volley of shots, which in a moment I'm going to show you a video, skip off the ground inches from not only the little boy, but also the mother who's standing at the vehicle waiting to put the young man in. In this video clip on the left, you will notice 4 circles. These 4 circles are to indicate the individuals that I had mentioned earlier that came northbound that are, we allege, associates of Dimarjio Jenkins. And in 2 of the circles on the right, you can see both individuals have handguns in their hands. And what we believe has occurred is that the shooter comes out of the suspect vehicle, opens gunfire, and 2 associates of Dimarjio Jenkins return gunfire with their own handguns back at the shooter, and we had an active gunfight happening on the sidewalk of Blue Jays Way. And the individual on the extreme left, which is the first circle, was an associate. The individual on the extreme left is actually the suspect that came out of the vehicle, and he is firing gunshots as well as proceeding southbound to the waiting vehicle at the end of the street. The other person that you see in the gray sweater is Dimarjio Jenkins, and at this point he is running back northbound, including his associates, as they're actively engaged in a gunfight from the suspect. As they proceed northbound, on the west side, they go into an alley, and at this point, the 15-year-old male, who's been blurred out, discards a handgun on the sidewalk which had jammed, which is how we found it, and we have recovered it since. As you can see, the young man and the family that were previously exposed very close to gunfire, in complete panic, board the vehicle. This is the video that I was mentioning earlier that's going to show the gunfire as it hits very close to the 6-year-old boy, inches from his feet, and as the shots are hitting the ground, you can see dust coming up. And the other video that you're going to see is the gunshots also hit the road near the mother. If that round had been a slightly higher, most likely it could have injured the mother, who's standing right by the door. What I want to emphasize here is the suspect vehicle, as I had mentioned earlier, was lying in wait for these 4 individuals that were walking northbound, but more specifically, the gunfire that was exchanged between these 2 parties, the 2 individuals that we believe are associates of Mr. Jenkins, and then the lone shooter. There was numerous people that were in the neighborhood, in the area. It was a nice, beautiful day. It was 4 p.m., it was broad daylight, and a lot of people's lives could have been put in jeopardy because of what had transpired. The 15-year-old was struck once, and he went down the alley. We have a 27-year-old female that cannot be seen on this video. She was on the south end of this photo frame, this still right now, and she was struck by a stray bullet. Complete bystander, and as the gunfire was actively being engaged between the two parties, she sustained a single gunshot wound. Luckily, that gunshot wound did not do great damage, and she is expected to make a full recovery. This individual here is the individual that I had shown earlier, was holding a high-capacity magazine with a handgun, and he was seen later in a nearby business. And I want to implore to the public, this is a very clear image. We want to identify this individual. He quite clearly has no regard for human life, was discharging a high-capacity magazine in a completely public area with family around, and we would need public's help to identify this individual so we can bring him to justice. This is an image of the suspect that exited the blue Volkswagen Tiguan. You can clearly see he's wearing Nike Air Force One type white shoes, wearing slightly dark clothing, and a medical mask that he's also wearing on his face with a handgun in his right hand. I'm hoping the combination of this specific description combined with the description of the vehicle, which I believe is very unique, a blue Volkswagen Tiguan that is actually a rental vehicle. These individuals were in possession of that vehicle for a better part of the month. So I'm hoping with the combination of the two, we're able to have the assistance of the public in identifying these individuals. Late last night, we also have now since then recovered the vehicle, which was found burnt in York region. We have since then recovered it. We are forensically analyzing it, and we're going to continue to gather evidence. There's another still image of the vehicle that I mentioned. This is shortly after the homicide as it was escaping the area. It's four-door. The rims are quite unique, and my hopes are that anybody that has seen this and in conjunction with the description of the suspect would be able to provide us assistance. The 15-year-old male has been since charged with firearm offenses. As clearly shown, he was discharging a firearm and he was holding a handgun, and he will be appearing in court. We're hoping that the public can see this heart-wrenching video, and specifically to the members that were in that vehicle. This is unacceptable. We had a very, very young family, specifically a 6-year-old boy who was in the area of this specific gunfire and this gunfight that occurred. Many casualties could have occurred, and this was an active gunfight happening on one of the busiest street corners in our city, and broad daylight. There was no regard for life. So I'm imploring even the individuals that know who these suspects are, they need to do the right thing. I asked them to contact us at Homicide Squad, or if they so choose, they can call Crime Stoppers. We need a name. We need to know who this individual is, and these other individual that's carrying the high-capacity magazine, which I'd also like to indicate we have since recovered at the back of where this investigation, the scene was, and since then we have secured it. So I just want to end with, if there's anybody that has any information, however little it is, whether it's video footage, we had high-rise buildings in the area, whether it's cell phone footage, we need every single piece of evidence. Any information that we can get is going to assist us in bringing these individuals who have complete disregard for any safety in society, specifically the actions that you've just seen on video. We're asking for the public's assistance to get in touch with us and provide us any information that they have. Thank you.
Our first question is from Haley Cooper from News Talk 1010. Haley, go ahead. Haley, go ahead.
Oh, can you not hear me?
Yes, now we can. Please repeat
Now you
the
can?
question.
Okay. We wanted to know if police have figured out if yesterday's shootings are in connection with Tuesday's shooting.
If I understood your question correctly, you were asking me if yesterday's shootings were in any connection to the Tuesday shootings. Right now, we have no evidence to indicate that, but we're always live to these possibilities, and if that is the case, the evidence will provide us an avenue to investigate that. But at this point, we have no evidence to indicate that.
Okay, and my follow-up is in regards to a different matter. Do I wait, Megan, or should I ask the chief now?
No, that's fine. We'll come back to you, Haley.
Okay.
Thanks. Next question is from Mark Douglas at 680 News. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you. Detective Jenkins here. Detective, could you tell us, do you believe that Jenkins was targeted, or could it have been someone else, one of his other associates, or even possibly that 15-year-old boy?
From the scene evidence and from what we have seen in terms of the video footage, it's a targeted shooting. I believe Mr. Jenkins was the target. However, if information comes forward that other members of his associates, the other associates, could have been targeted as well, that is definitely a possibility.
Thank you. A follow-up then, and I'm just trying to sort out the timeline of everything you've said here in terms of who had what weapons and when. The party that Jenkins was with, as they were coming up the street, did they already have weapons out, or did they keep their weapons concealed until the shooter from the Tiguan opened fire? I'm not clear on who had their guns out and when.
So when the four individuals, the four members including Mr. Jenkins that went northbound, at that point they did not have their handguns out. The handguns for the two associates of Mr. Jenkins came out when gunfire erupted from the lone shooter who exited the suspect vehicle. And they returned fire towards that shooter. That's when they produced the handgun, which was in and around the area which I had shown earlier on the sidewalk footage where a young family and a young boy was standing as well.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Angelina King from CBC. Angelina, please go ahead.
Hi there, Detective. Just wondering if you can tell us how many shots were fired, and at this point, how many guns you're looking for, how many suspects or people of interest you're looking for.
So to answer your first question, we've recovered 23 shell casings. 13 of those are .40 caliber, and 10 are 9mm. So we know for a fact 23 shots were fired. The other component is we have recovered 2 firearms. I believe those 2 firearms belong to the associates that were with Mr. Jenkins. The firearm for the shooter that initially opened fire coming out of the suspect vehicle of the Tiguan, that is still outstanding.
Thank you. And at this stage, is there a motive that you're looking into?
We're still very early on in the investigation. That is something we're looking into actively. But as of right now, we're still in the evidentiary gathering stage.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a question from Scott Lightfoot, CTV. Scott, please go ahead.
Thanks, Megan. Detective, just wondering if you have any idea why the victim and his associates were in that area. The chief specifically mentioned people coming downtown. So do you have any idea why they were there at that time?
So what I can tell you is the homicide victim, Mr. Jenkins, had an Airbnb very close to the location where the shooting took place. That's why they were in that area.
And a follow-up question about the boy there. Any indication as to how he's doing, and what information do you have about why that family was there? It looks like it's the entrance to a hotel. Were they visiting at the time, or what can you say about them without revealing too much?
That's right. Again, I won't comment on whether they were visiting or they lived there. What I can tell you is they were just doing their day-to-day regular activity like any one of us, millions of citizens across Toronto, do every day, loading up the car to head out. And the boy was just there waiting for his mother because she was doing and securing articles in the car. Yeah, it was just a regular activity for them, and they were just, unfortunately, very close to a completely lethal situation.
Next up, we have Betsy Powell from the Toronto Star. Betsy, go ahead.
Thanks, Megan. Detective, do you believe the shooting is related to an ongoing gang war between Driftwood and their enemies?
I'm sorry, the last part tapered out.
Yeah, do you believe it's related to an ongoing gang war between Driftwood and their enemies?
So we are aware of the gangs that are out there. There's many neighborhoods in the city that obviously have conflicts. It would be speculation at this point, but we are aware of what the landscape looks like in terms of the different gangs that are out there. We are looking at that, and if that becomes through our evidence the reason why this occurred, then we'll definitely look at that as well. But right now, it's too early to say.
With summer just around the corner, and we've already seen an uptick, maybe this is a question for the chief, in shootings and murders during the pandemic, and one of these shooters was wearing what looks like a mask, right, a hospital mask. Should we be bracing for a violent summer and with shootings happening in public places?
I mean, this is definitely an opportunistic moment for the person who's wearing the mask, who's conducting such activity where they're actually being engaged in a criminal offense. I'm sorry, your question at the end tapered off again. Could you speak up, please?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, should we be bracing for a violent summer?
I mean, this is an incident that was very violent. It had the propensity to go very bad. Unfortunately, I can't see into the future, but what I can tell you is we're actually investigating any gang member or anybody that had anything to do with this incident, and that's why we're asking for the public's assistance. That after they see a video like this where individuals are carrying on shooting guns without any care for people that are in the neighborhood, this is where we need the public to come forward, because I am sure somebody who sees this image, this still image of our suspect, or the suspect vehicle, they know who this individual is. We need their assistance.
Next up is Melissa from City TV. Melissa, please go ahead.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I just want to be clear. So the 15-year-old is facing firearm-related charges. Do you know anything else about this 15-year-old? Any relations to any other gangs? And also, do you believe that the shooting might have been in relation to another homicide?
In regards to the 15-year-old, he has been charged with firearm offenses. He is known to us. In regards to gang membership, I'm not aware of any. The relationship with other incidents and other shootings, that's, again, as I mentioned, those are things that we always gather as we move forward in an investigation, especially in terms of associates and why this occurred. So I am sure that more answers will be forthcoming. At this point, I don't have a specific idea with an exact another event that occurred prior, but as we delve more into this, if that becomes relevant and it becomes real, then that'll definitely be looked into.
Okay, thank you.
That's all the questions we have about homicide number 30. So Chief Saunders, I'm going to ask you to take the podium, and we will start the questions over again. Haley Cooper, we will start with you in just a second. Okay, Haley Cooper from News Talk 1010, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chief. We wanted to speak with you regarding the death of Regis Korchinski-Paquette yesterday. You've issued a statement saying that the Toronto Police Service wants the facts as much as anyone, and that the service is fully cooperating with the Special Investigations Unit. But there are growing calls for complete transparency in this investigation. There's even a protest already planned for this weekend. So I want to know, what can you say right now to everyone listening that's feeling angry, that's feeling frustrated, that's feeling sad and in grief, that they will be given the complete transparency that they're seeking? Please describe to them how they will be given that. And as Chief of Police, how are you going to ensure that the heat on this doesn't rise to uncontrollable levels?
Well, first off, my condolences go to the family with regards to this particular incident. Any loss of life is something that we do take seriously as a police agency, and I will tell you, I stand for transparency and accountability 100%. With respect to this investigation, because of the fact that it is mandated that the Special Investigations Unit investigates it, and by law, we cannot say anything with respect to the information leading to those moments, it's difficult. And I will tell you, if I had a wish, I wish that we could give absolutely everything that occurred. And I say that because when we deal with public trust and accountability, when it's dealt by fact, then as an organization, we have to make sure we do all that we can to heal that. My fear is that misinformation, when we don't have an opportunity to speak, can lead to negative consequences. So, I mean, I'll urge the public to please wait for the facts to come out. I am anxiously awaiting for the investigation to be complete. I'm awaiting all of the evidence, the fingerprints, the statements, any type of DNA to tell the story, to tell the truth. And I support my men and women based on the limited information that I have right now. And I do hope that the public has an opportunity to hear the absolute truth, because we know the concerns and we agree that the case should be resolved as quick as possible so that we can figure out how to move forward.
Next question's from Wendy Gillis at the Toronto Star. Wendy?
Hi there. Good afternoon, Chief. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. I just wanted to follow up on that question, Chief. Sometimes when these kinds of incidents happen, the preliminary information about what may have prompted the police to attend the scene in the first place might be released through Toronto Police Operations. So I just wondered if you might be able to provide a little bit more information about what brought police to the scene.
So it was a call for an assault that had just occurred. I won't speak to the parties at the assault that were involved in the assault, but that was the call. I listened to the call, and it sounded rather frantic. There was need for a police presence to be there. And so we got the call, and within 20 seconds it was dispatched, and within 4 minutes officers were on the scene, and I believe with others conducting the investigation. And then I can't speak more to it, but I can tell you that every member of the Toronto Police Service is 100% ready to be part of the solution, to testify, to give whatever evidence is necessary, and we will give it ASAP to make sure that we do our part to concluding. And we hope that everybody that is involved in this situation is also willing to give 100% of their cooperation in telling the truth as to what happened during those moments.
Thank you.
Next question, Stephanie Smythe, CP24. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, Chief. A couple of questions for you. You know, when you deal with the ISIU, when that is, they invoke their mandate, so much information cannot be provided, which causes all kinds of rooms for speculation. But today, the SIU released 2 separate releases. The first one said that police were inside the apartment. Then they released another one that said they were inside the building. So it looks to me like the SIU is trying to change information here. I'm wondering, can you tell us, and why this might be excluded because of the investigation, how many officers responded to this call? So how many officers responded? Were they wearing body cameras? I can't understand why that would not be able to be answered, even with the SIU invoking its mandate. And where exactly they were in that building. Were they in the apartment or on the balcony?
Thank you, Stephanie. So there's a lot that I can't speak to because of the investigation itself, and I can't speak on what the SIU chooses to say or chooses not to say. But I will say, you know, there was some spin on it before that said the Toronto Police choose not to answer, which is just not the case. By law, we can't, and that is the reason. And anyone that has dealt with SIU investigations in the media to the public as well as law enforcement, this is nothing new. We are, by law, can't speak to it, and that's unfortunate. With respect to body cameras, I got to tell you, this might be a textbook case in which why body cameras should be provided. We are looking at getting them out sooner than later, and that will be a necessary piece of equipment for our officers, because it will also assist in adding as much objective evidence to the situations, and it would have the opportunity, I think, of killing all of the misinformation that goes out.
Okay, and then I have a follow-up to that. I mean, we heard from Haley saying that there's already a protest planned. How concerned are you that situations happening in the United States are giving oxygen to what is happening here in Toronto? And to that end, you know, how much quickly can you speed up that information to avoid what's happening south of the border?
Well, we have some fundamental differences. First and foremost, I do understand the emotion behind this. People want answers, and I know that if people had the answers, the truthful answers, by the way, then I think that would change the thermostat considerably, especially in the City of Toronto. But when we speak to Toronto compared to other urban cities, I will say that this is one of the more peaceful cities. I think people will allow the opportunity for the truth to come out without doing things too egregious. I'm sure that there's always a small handful that will think otherwise will try to create great divides, and that does cause some concern. But listen, we're willing to be, and like I said, the fact that we have a Special Investigations Unit, arm's length, we are not allowed to control the evidence or the investigation in any way, shape, or form. These are things that are added to policing in Ontario that are not added in certain other countries that have this independent oversight. So the fact that someone else other than the police are investigating, so we're not investigating our own when it comes to these types of investigations. And I hope that if people understand the fullness of what we're trying to do and be as transparent as we can be in accordance to law and in any other aspect, we want the answers as eagerly as everybody else. We want the public to hear the very truth, everything that we did or did not do, and I hope the investigation will happen in a speedy sense, and it's a fair and thorough investigation, and in that way the outcomes may have an opportunity of providing themselves sooner than later to prevent any type of unrest, and it would be harmful and sad if we have unrest that is based on absolute misinformation.
I think we have one more question from Melissa at City TV. Melissa, do you have a question?
Oh, hi. Sorry. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Have I missed anybody? If someone could send a quick message through chat or put up your hand on WebEx if I've missed you. Wendy Gillis has one more follow-up question. Wendy, go ahead.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to follow up quickly. You say unrest based on absolute misinformation. Am I understanding correctly that that is how you're categorizing what is out there right now?
Well, I'm limited to say what I can say, but I will say that the public deserves the opportunity to hear the truth. There is a lot of emotion that's out there, and a lot of times, whenever we're not allowed to answer, it causes people to put in space in the vacuum. They will fill the vacuum, and this is not the first time that this happened. It's happened before, and historically, when you walk things back, when the truth comes out, it's far different than what the perceived realities are today. And so my ask is, again, that please base your actions on the evidence that you have. And that evidence is going to come through testimony. It's going to come through forensic evidence, whether it's fingerprints, DNA, in order to tell the full, complete story. And I hope that that investigation is done expeditiously so that there is an opportunity for the conclusion. And once all the truth is out, then we can figure out where we go as a public and as law enforcement. We are doing everything we can to provide as much transparency as we can by law and accountability.
Thank you very much, Chief. That concludes our news conference for today. A news release for Homicide 30 will be out later this afternoon. Thanks, everybody.